The great hall of the Galactic Council was filled with strange sounds. Alien voices mixed together in dozens of different languages. The translation machines worked hard to change all the words so everyone could understand each other. But today, most of the sounds were laughter. Admiral Jake Morrison stood in the center of the hall. He was a tall man with gray hair and tired eyes. Behind him, a huge screen showed pictures of the biggest spaceship anyone had ever tried to build. The ship was so large that it made the space stations around Earth look like toys. The ship was called the USS Titan. For 10 years, every human colony had sent metal, workers, and money to build it. The ship was 15 kilometers long. Enough weapons to destroy entire planets. But the aliens in the hall were not scared. They were laughing. Captain Lisa Rodriguez sat in the human section of the hall. She had spent 5 years working on the Titan's engines. She knew every pipe, every wire, and every computer on that ship. But as she listened to the aliens talk, she felt her face turn red with anger. The Zephyrian ambassador was speaking. Looked like a giant octopus with blue skin. His tentacles moved as he talked, and the translation machine changed his words into human language. Humans are very funny, he said. They do not understand how space works. A ship that big cannot fly faster than light, would need the power of a whole star just to move. More laughter filled the hall. The Kelthoran delegate made musical sounds that meant the same thing as laughing. She was made of living crystal and looked like a beautiful statue. When she spoke, her voice sounded like bells ringing. Our best scientists have done the math. She said, your Titan would break apart the moment it tried to leave Earth. You have built a very expensive piece of junk. Commander Alex Chen was also in the human section. He had worked on the Titan's weapons for 2 years. He had seen things that would make these aliens stop laughing, but Admiral Morrison had told all the humans to keep quiet about their secrets. Alex watched the aliens make fun of his people and wished he could tell them the truth. A new alien stood up to speak. This one was a Vorthin, and he had 6 arms and eyes like a fly. His skin was green and covered with hard plates like armor. Maybe humans should stick to small ships, he said. Let the real space powers build the big warships. Clearly do not know what you are doing. The other aliens made sounds of agreement. Some of them had been fighting wars in space for thousands of years. They had seen many young species try to build ships that were too big or too powerful. Those species usually learned their lesson the hard way, but the humans were different. Even if the aliens did not know it yet, Admiral Morrison had been quiet during all the laughing and joking. Now he stepped forward. He'd been a soldier for 40 years. He had fought in the war when humans first left Earth. He had seen his people grow from one world to dozens of colonies. But he had never seen anything like what was about to happen. Thank you for your concern, Morrison said in a calm voice. We humans appreciate that you worry about us, but maybe we should show you something instead of just talking about it. Aliens laughed even louder. The Zephyrian ambassador waved his tentacles. You cannot show us anything human. Your ship cannot fly. It's too big and too heavy. The laws of physics will not let it work. Morrison smiled. It was not a happy smile. It was the smile of a man who knew a secret. The laws of physics are very interesting, he said. Sometimes they work differently than we think. In the human section, Captain Rodriguez felt her heart beat faster. She knew what Morrison was talking about. 3 days from now, the whole galaxy would see something. That should be impossible. The Kelthoran delegate made her bell-like laugh again. Humans are so stubborn, she said. Even when we try to help them, they will not listen. Very well, show us your broken ship. We'll watch it fail, and then maybe you will build something that actually works. Other aliens nodded their heads, or made whatever motion their species used to show agreement. They had seen this before. Young species always thought they could do better than everyone else. Then reality taught them otherwise. But Commander Chen knew something the aliens did not know. Deep inside the Titan, there were machines that used technology older than any of the species in this room. Humans had found something in the ruins of dead worlds. Something that changed everything. Dr. Rachel Wong was not in the council hall, but she was watching from Earth. She was the scientist who had figured out how to make the ancient technology work with human machines. For 5 years, she had worked on math problems that made her head hurt. But now she knew the answers. Engineer Danny Sullivan was on the Titan right now, making sure everything was ready. He had crawled through maintenance tunnels that were bigger than most alien ships. He had seen the power source that would make the impossible happen. The council meeting was ending. The aliens were still laughing as they left to go back to their ships. They wanted to watch the humans fail. Some of them had brought recording equipment to capture the moment when the Titan broke apart. Admiral Morrison waited until the hall was almost empty. Then he spoke into his communication device. "Mrs. Morrison, begin final preparations. In 3 days, we show them what humans can do." Captain Rodriguez stood up and walked over to the Admiral. "Sir, are you sure about this? If something goes? WRONG. Morrison looked at the empty hall where aliens had laughed at his people. "Lisa, 10 years ago they said we were too small to matter. 5 years ago they said we were too weak to have a voice in the council. Today they say our ship is too big to fly." Turned to look at the picture of the Titan on the big screen. The ship looked like a floating mountain made of metal and weapons. Tomorrow, they learn that humans do not care what is supposed to be impossible. We make our own rules. As the humans left the council hall, none of them looked worried. They knew something that would change everything. In 3 days, the galaxy would see the USS Titan fly. Deep inside the USS Titan, Chief Engineer Maria Santos walked through corridors that were wide enough for trucks to drive through. The ship was so big that it took 20 minutes to walk from one end to the other.
8.
But Maria knew every part of it. Like her own home, she stopped at a massive door marked with warning signs in 12 different languages. Behind that door was the heart of the ship, the thing that would make the impossible happen. Maria put her hand on the scanner, and the door opened with a deep rumble. The reactor room was the size of a football stadium. In the center sat something that looked like a giant crystal made of blue light, hummed with power that made the air itself shake. This was not like the engines that other ships used. This was something much older and much more powerful. Maria had seen the ruins where humans first found this technology. On a dead planet near Proxima Centauri, there were buildings made by a species that had died out millions of years ago. Inside those buildings, human scientists had found crystal matrices that could bend space and time like clay.
Oh.
"Danny, how are the dimensional stabilizers looking?" Maria called out. Engineer Danny Sullivan's voice came from somewhere high above her. He was crawling through maintenance tunnels that ran all through the ship. These tunnels were so big that Danny could stand up and walk normally in them. "All green, Chief," he called back. "The quantum anchors are holding steady. Whatever those old builders knew about folding space, they sure knew their stuff." Maria smiled. Danny had been working on this project for 3 years. He had studied every piece of the ancient technology. He understood it better than anyone, except maybe Dr. Rachel Wong, the scientist who had figured out how to make it work with human computers. On the bridge of the Titan, Captain Ben Taylor looked out at a view screen that showed Earth hanging in space like a blue marble. The bridge was bigger than most alien destroyers. It had to be, because the Titan carried 12,000 crew members. Each of them had trained for years to work. On this ship, Lieutenant Commander Kate Phillips was working at the navigation station. Her job was to plot courses through space using the new dimensional drive. The math was so complicated that it took 3 computers working together just to figure out where they were going. "Captain," she said, "I've got our course plotted for the demonstration. We'll be traveling through 7 different dimensional layers to reach the target zone." Captain Taylor nodded. He had been a ship captain for 15 years, but he had never commanded anything like the Titan. Most of the ships he had flown before could fit inside the Titan's cargo bay. Major Sam Johnson was at the tactical station, checking the weapons systems. The Titan did not just have big guns. It had weapons that used the same dimensional technology as the engines. Yes, these weapons could do things that the aliens had never seen before. "All weapon systems show ready, Captain," Sam reported. "Dimensional. Cannons are charged and the targeting computers are online." In the communications center, Lieutenant Tony Martinez was listening to radio signals from all over the galaxy. The alien fleets were moving into position to watch what they thought would be humanity's greatest failure. Some of them were making bets on how quickly the Titan would break apart, Captain Tony said. I'm picking up chatter from the alien observation ships. They're taking bets on whether we'll explode before or after we try to engage the engines. Captain Taylor allowed himself a small smile. In a few hours, those aliens would stop making jokes about human engineering. Down in her laboratory, Dr. Rachel Wong was running final checks on the equations that made everything possible. She was the woman who had spent 5 years figuring out how to make ancient alien technology work with human science. The math had been so difficult that it had given her headaches for months, but now she understood it. Ancients had not just built ships that could fly faster than light. They had built ships that could create their own space to fly through. Instead of following the rules of physics, they had learned to write new rules. The dimensional matrix is stable, she reported to the bridge. All quantum fluctuations are within acceptable parameters. We are ready for ignition. Rachel looked at the computer screens that showed readings no human had ever seen before. The Titan was not just a ship. It was a machine that could reshape reality itself. Aliens who were laughing at them had no idea what they were about to see. Chief Engineer Santos was back in the reactor room, standing in front of the control panel that would start everything. She thought about her grandfather, who had been a mechanic on the first human ships that traveled between planets. Those ships had been tiny compared to the Titan, but they had been the beginning of humanity's journey to the stars. Now humanity was about to take the biggest step of all. Bridge, this is engineering, Maria said into her headset. All systems are green. The dimensional drive is ready for activation. Engineering, this is the bridge, came Captain Taylor's voice. You are authorized to begin startup sequence. Maria looked at the big red button that would change everything. Around her, the ancient crystal technology hummed with power that could move mountains. The aliens had said it was impossible. They had laughed at human dreams, but humans had always been good at doing impossible things. Maria pressed the button. The crystal matrix flared with light brighter than the sun. The humming sound grew louder and deeper until it could be felt in every part of the ship. Energy readings climbed higher than any human machine had ever produced. Throughout the ship, crew members felt a strange tingling in their bones. The laws of physics were bending around them. Space itself was getting ready to be reshaped by human will and ancient alien science. On the bridge, Captain Taylor watched his instruments show readings that should not exist. All stations report ready, he announced. Prepare for dimensional drive activation. The USS Titan was about to roar to life. The space around Earth began to change. Reality itself started to bend and twist as the USS Titan's dimensional drive came online. What had been solid and certain became fluid and strange. The massive ship, 15 kilometers of metal and weapons, that should have collapsed under its own weight, began to rise. On the bridge, Captain Ben Taylor felt the deck plates vibrate under his feet. But it was not the violent shaking that came from struggling engines. It was a smooth, steady pulse. That felt like a giant heartbeat. The ancient technology was working exactly as Dr. Rachel Wong had promised it would. Navigation report, Taylor said calmly. Lieutenant Commander Kate Phillips looked at her instruments with wonder. The readings showed things that should not be possible. Captain, we are achieving lift with zero structural stress. The dimensional field is supporting the entire mass of the ship. We are not fighting gravity. We are changing the rules that make gravity work. In the engineering section, Chief Engineer Maria Santos watched displays that showed power levels beyond anything humanity had ever achieved. The crystal matrix was not straining to lift the Titan. Instead, it was creating a bubble of altered space-time around the ship. Inside that bubble, the Titan weighed nothing at all. Bridge, this is engineering, Maria reported. All systems are running perfectly. The dimensional field is stable and we are using only 12% of available power. Was in the maintenance tunnels, watching the quantum stabilizers that kept reality from tearing apart around them. The ancient builders had designed these systems to handle forces that could destroy planets. For the Titan, they were running at barely above idle. Chief, the stabilizers are purring like kittens. Danny called out. "This old tech is incredible. It's like the ship wants to fly." Outside the Titan, alien observation ships recorded energy readings that made no sense. The Zephyrian science vessel Wisdom of Depths had instruments that could measure the smallest changes in space and time. But what they were seeing broke every rule they knew about physics, Captain. Vex Thornwall of the Zephyrian ship spoke to his science officer. "Explain to me how a ship that massive is moving without any visible propulsion." Science Officer Krau's tentacles writhed in confusion. "Sir, I cannot explain it. The humans appear to have surrounded their ship with a field that changes the basic properties of space itself. According to our readings, the ship is not moving through space. It is making space move around it." The Kelthoran observer ship Song of Crystal was having similar problems understanding what they were seeing. Captain Harmonious Bell tried to make sense of the data her ship was collecting. The human vessel appears to be creating localized distortions in space-time, her science officer reported in musical tones. The energy requirements for such an effect should be impossible to generate or control. On the Vorthan battleship Iron Claw, Captain Nex Grimscale watched the human ship rise with growing alarm. His species had been building warships for 3,000 years. They knew what was possible and what was not. The Titan was definitely not possible. "Weapons officer," Grimscale ordered, "are you detecting any signs of instability in the human vessel?" "None, sir," came the reply. "The ship appears to be completely stable. If anything, it seems to be becoming more efficient as it gains altitude." Back on the Titan, Dr. Rachel Wong monitored the dimensional drive from her science station. The equations that had taken her 5 years to solve were playing out perfectly in reality. The ancient technology was not just working, it was exceeding all her projections. "Captain," she reported, "the dimensional matrix is actually becoming more stable as we increase our altitude. The system appears to be designed to work better the farther we get from gravitational interference." Captain Taylor nodded. "Excellent.
Navigation.
Prepare for faster-than-light transition. Let's show our guests what the Titan can really do." The alien observers had expected the human ship to explode by now. Instead, they watched as it began to accelerate toward the edge of Earth's solar system. The massive vessel moved with grace. That defied everything they knew about large ship design. "This is impossible," muttered Captain Vex on the Zephyrian ship. "No ship that size should be able to achieve such smooth acceleration. Structural stresses alone should have torn it apart." But the Titan was not experiencing structural stress. The dimensional field that surrounded it distributed forces evenly throughout the ship's frame. Every bolt, every weld, every piece of hull plating was supported by technology that treated the laws of physics as suggestions rather than absolute rules. "Lieutenant, Commander Phillips," announced the next milestone. "Captain, we are approaching the transition point for faster-than-light travel. All systems show ready for dimensional jump. Communications signal Admiral Morrison that we are ready to proceed," Taylor ordered. Lieutenant Tony Martinez opened a channel to the Admiral's flagship. "Admiral, the Titan reports ready for FTL demonstration." Admiral Jake Morrison's voice came back immediately. "Proceed, Captain. Show them what humans can accomplish." The alien observation ships moved to what they thought was a safe distance. They had seen ships attempt faster-than-light travel before. When the attempt failed, the explosion could destroy everything within several thousand kilometers. But the Titan was not going to explode. As the dimensional drive prepared for the jump to faster-than-light speed, the space around the ship began to fold in ways that hurt to look at directly. Reality bent like hot metal being shaped by an invisible hammer. Initiating faster-than-light travel, Captain Taylor announced. The stars around the Titan began to stretch and blur. But instead of the violent tear in space that alien ships created when they jumped to light speed, the Titan simply stepped sideways out of normal space-time. The massive ship did not push through the barriers between dimensions. It created its own pathway, carving a tunnel through reality that led directly to its destination. Where alien ships had to follow the natural curves and channels of space, the Titan made its own road. On the alien observation ship's science officers stared at readings that challenged everything they thought they knew about faster-than-light travel. The human ship had not just achieved the impossible, it had made the impossible look easy. The USS Titan disappeared into its own pocket of folded spacetime, leaving behind only a gentle ripple in reality. The largest ship ever built had just proven that size was no barrier to speed when you had the right technology. In the silence that followed, the alien captains began to realize that humanity had not just built a big ship. They had built something that changed the rules of the game entirely. The USS Titan appeared at the edge of the Kepler system like a mountain made of metal and starlight. The massive ship dropped out of faster-than-light travel so smoothly that the crew barely felt it happen. Around them, space filled with the ships of alien observers who had come to watch what they expected to be humanity's greatest embarrassment. Instead, they found themselves staring at something that should not exist. Captain Ben Taylor stood on the bridge and looked at the tactical display. 3 enormous alien battleships floated in space ahead of them. Each ship was over 2 kilometers long and represented the best military technology that the Zephyrian, Kelthoran, and Vorthan species could build. These ships had been decommissioned, but they still had all their armor and defensive systems working. "Major Johnson," Taylor said to his weapons officer, "are our targets ready?" Major Sam Johnson checked his displays. The dimensional cannons were charged and ready. The railgun batteries showed green lights across the board. The plasma weapon systems hummed with barely contained energy. "All weapon systems ready, Captain. We are locked onto all 3 targets." Fleet Admiral Harrison Burke was commanding. The human escort ships that had followed the Titan to the demonstration. His voice came over the communications channel. "Respected alien delegates, as you can see, the USS Titan has successfully traveled faster than light across multiple star systems. We now move to the second part of our demonstration." Dr. Rachel Wong monitored the weapon systems from her science station. The dimensional cannons did not work like normal guns. Instead of firing bullets or energy beams, they fired pieces of twisted space-time itself. When these weapons hit their target, they did not just destroy it, they made it stop existing. "Captain," Dr. Wong reported, "all dimensional systems are stable. The weapons are ready to fire at your command." The alien observation ships had moved to what they thought was a safe distance. Captain Vex of the Zephyrian vessel Wisdom of Depths was recording everything. His species had been studying weapons technology for thousands of years. He was curious to see what the humans had managed to build. "Science Officer Krell," he said, "what do your instruments tell you about the human weapons?" Krell's tentacles moved nervously as he read his displays. "Sir, I am detecting energy signatures that I do not recognize. The human ship appears to be charging weapons that operate on principles we have never seen before." On the Kelthoran ship's Song of Crystal, Captain Harmonious Bell was having similar concerns. Her crystalline body rang with worried harmonics as she studied the readings her ship was collecting. "The humans appear to have multiple weapon systems," her weapons officer chimed. "Some of them seem to be conventional railguns and plasma cannons, but others are producing energy patterns that make no sense." Captain Taylor looked at the first target. The decommissioned Vorthan battleship Crushing Fist was a massive vessel that had once been the pride of their fleet. Its armor was thick, enough to stop the most powerful weapons in known space. Its shields could absorb the energy output of a small star. "Target the Vorthan battleship," Taylor ordered. "Single-dimensional cannon shot. Minimum power setting." Commander Lisa Park was at the weapons control station. She had spent 2 years learning how to operate the dimensional cannons. The weapons were so powerful that they could accidentally destroy planets if used incorrectly. But today, she would use them with surgical precision. "Dimensional Cannon 1 locked on target," Park reported, firing. The beam that shot out from the Titan looked almost gentle. It was barely visible, just a slight bending of light that moved across space at incredible speed. When it hit the Vorthan battleship, the results were anything but gentle. A perfect sphere, 300 meters across, simply disappeared from the middle of the alien ship. Not destroyed, not vaporized, just gone. As if that piece of the universe had been erased. The battleship, suddenly missing a large chunk of its center section, broke apart and drifted in pieces. On the alien observation ships, emergency alarms began to ring. Science officers stared at their instruments in disbelief. The readings made no sense. The human weapon had not released enough energy to destroy the battleship. It had done something far worse. "By the deep currents," whispered Captain Vex. "They did not destroy the ship. They made part of it cease to exist entirely." Captain Taylor was not finished with his demonstration. "Target the Keltheron battleship. Railgun batteries, full spread." The Titan's magnetic launch systems came online. Dozens of tungsten slugs accelerated to significant fractions of light speed. These were not exotic weapons like the dimensional cannons. They were simple metal projectiles moving very, very fast. But the Titan had so many railguns, and they were so powerful. Simple became devastating. The slugs hit the Keltheran battleship Crystal Harmony like a metal rainstorm. Each projectile carried enough kinetic energy to level a city. Alien ship's shields flared and died. Its crystal armor, designed to withstand the most advanced weapons in the galaxy, cracked and shattered like glass. In 3 seconds, the once mighty battleship was reduced to glittering fragments. Possible, chimed the weapons officer on the surviving Keltheran observation ship. "No kinetic weapon should be able to penetrate our crystal matrix armor." But the Titan's railguns were not normal kinetic weapons. They used the same dimensional technology that powered the ship's engines. The tungsten slugs did not just move fast. They moved through folded spacetime, bypassing most of the target's defenses entirely. One target remained: the Zephyrian battleship. Deep Current Warrior floated alone in space, its crew of automated systems trying desperately to activate emergency protocols. "Final target," Captain Taylor announced. "Plasma battery array, concentrated fire." The Titan's plasma weapon spoke with the voice of contained stars. Streams of coherent energy, each one hot enough to melt asteroids, reached out across space. The Zephyrian battleship's shields lasted exactly 4 seconds before collapsing completely. The plasma beams carved through the alien ship's hull like hot knives through butter. Armor that had been designed to stop the most powerful weapons in Zephyrian space offered no more protection than paper. The battleship came apart in a ball of superheated metal and escaping atmosphere. Chief Engineer Maria Santos monitored the power systems during the entire demonstration. "Captain, all weapons functioned perfectly. We used less than 20% of our total power output." The silence that followed was complete. 3 of the most powerful warships ever built by alien technology had been destroyed in less than 5 minutes. The human ship had used 3 different types of weapons, each one more devastating than anything the galaxy had seen before. Admiral Burke's voice carried across all communication channels. "Esteemed delegates of the Galactic Council, humanity, thanks you for allowing us to demonstrate our defensive capabilities. We look forward to more productive discussions about our role in galactic affairs." On the alien observation ships, the political implications hit as hard as the weapons had hit their targets. Humanity had just announced that they were no longer a minor species to be ignored or mocked. They were now a major galactic power, and they had the weapons to prove it. 6 months had passed since the day the USS Titan showed the galaxy what humans could do. The Great Hall of the Galactic Council looked very different now. The human delegation no longer sat in the back corner with the minor species. Their seats were at the main table, right next to the most powerful civilizations in known space. Admiral Jake Morrison walked into the hall with confidence. Behind him came Captain Ben Taylor, who now commanded not just the Titan, but an entire fleet of impossible ships. Dr. Rachel Wong followed them, carrying data about discoveries that were changing everything humanity thought they knew about the universe. The Zephyrian ambassador was speaking, but his tone was very different from 6 months ago. There was no laughter in his voice, no mocking of human abilities. Instead, there was respect, and maybe a little fear. "The trade route security proposal has merit," the ambassador said carefully. "However, we must consider the significant human contribution to the enforcement fleet. The aliens were learning to speak differently around humans now. They had seen what happened to the 3 battleships at the Kepler demonstration. They knew that humanity was no longer a species they could ignore or push around. Commander Alex. He now commanded the USS Leviathan, the second ship in humanity's new fleet. The shipyards around Earth worked day and night building more of the massive vessels. Each new ship was better than the last. Chief Engineer Maria Santos, who now oversaw the construction of the entire fleet, had learned things from the Titan service that made each new vessel more powerful and more efficient. The exploration mission to the Andromeda Contact Zone is a serious undertaking, said the Keltheron delegate, her crystal body ringing with careful harmonics. Captain Lisa Rodriguez, who was now in charge of building the 4th and 5th ships in the human fleet, had been studying those energy signatures. The readings looked familiar. They looked like the technology that had made the Titan possible. Dr. Wong stood up to address the council. She was no longer just a scientist working in a laboratory on Earth. She was now the director of dimensional sciences for the UHS, entire Human Federation. Her work had opened doors that led to powers beyond imagination. Our analysis suggests the anomalies are consistent with the technology we discovered in the Kepler ruins, she said. There may be additional ancient sites waiting to be explored. Implications of her words hung in the air like thunder before a storm. If humans could find more sources of the ancient technology, what might they become capable of next? His 6 arms moving nervously asked the question that was on everyone's mind. What are human intentions regarding these potential discoveries, Admiral? Morrison stood to answer. His weathered face showed the satisfaction of a man who had lived to see his species rise from mockery to respect. The Human Federation believes in sharing knowledge for the benefit of all civilizations. However, we also believe in protecting ourselves and our allies. The message was clear without being threatening. Humans would explore these ancient sites. It would unlock whatever secrets lay hidden there. They would use those secrets to become even more powerful than they already were. Captain Taylor thought about the patrol routes his ships now flew. The USS Titan and her sister ships traveled paths through space that would have been impossible for any other vessels. They could appear anywhere in the galaxy within days, bringing human power to bear wherever it was needed. Lieutenant Tony Martinez, who was now a full commander in charge of communications for the entire fleet, brought reports from across human space. 17 different alien species had sent requests for technology sharing agreements. Everyone wanted to know how humans had achieved the impossible, but humans were careful about sharing their secrets. They remembered the laughter in this very hall. They remembered being called too small, too weak, too ignorant to matter. The session continued with discussions of trade agreements, territorial boundaries, and mutual defense pacts. But everyone in the hall knew that these were conversations between equals now. Captain Taylor walked through the corridors of the USS Titan, which was docked at the council station. Through the massive viewports, he could see Earth hanging blue and beautiful in space. But Earth was no longer alone and defenseless. The human colonies throughout the galaxy were protected by ships that could reshape reality itself. Pirates and raiders had learned to avoid human space entirely. Even the most aggressive alien empires thought twice before making threats against human interests. Engineer Danny Sullivan, who now supervised the maintenance crews for the entire Titan-class fleet, sent reports that made Taylor smile. The ships were performing better than anyone had dared to hope. The ancient technology was not just reliable, it was improving with use. "Captain," came a voice over the intercom. "We're receiving a priority message from the exploration fleet." The exploration fleet was humanity's newest project. 5 Titan-class ships had been sent to investigate the energy signatures Dr. Wong had detected. What they might find could change the balance of power in the galaxy once again. Taylor made his way to the bridge, where the message was waiting. The exploration fleet had reached the Andromeda Contact Zone. They had found ruins, ancient structures that dwarfed even the sites where humans had first discovered dimensional technology. "Captain," the message began, "this is Admiral Chen reporting from the Leviathan. We have made contact with automated systems left behind by the ancient civilization. The technology here is more advanced than anything we found in the Kepler ruins." Taylor smiled as he read the full report. The ancients had left behind not just individual pieces of technology, but entire databases of knowledge. It's manufacturing facilities that could build ships beyond current human imagination. They had mocked human dreams and human determination. But humans had proven that impossible was just another word for something that hadn't been done yet. Now, the USS Titan and her sister ships patrolled space with their dimensional drives humming with power. The galaxy had learned an important lesson. Never bet against human ingenuity. Never assume that humans will accept limitations that others take for granted in the depths of their engineering sections. The ancient crystal matrices pulsed with energy that bridged the gap between what was and what could be. Humanity had arrived among the stars not as conquerors, but as the species that refused to believe in impossible things. The universe was vast and full of wonders, but now it also contained something that the ancient builders would have recognized. It approved of a young species with the courage to reach for powers beyond their understanding, and the wisdom to use those powers to protect what they held dear. The USS Titan continued her patrol, carrying humanity's message to the stars. They had said it was too big to fly. They'd been wrong about everything.